Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Sandra and this is Northern Zen Yoga. And today I'm going to do a recipe for you that many of you have asked for, and that is to do a basic chaffle recipe. What's a chaffle? Well, a chaffle looks like a waffle, but it's made with a basic ingredient of eggs and cheese. Now we do add a few other things to it to help give it some body and some stability so that you can use this as a replacement for bread or maybe even an English muffin. I love to make chaffles and use them to make a breakfast sandwich. So today I'm going to show you how to make chaffles for one, the basic recipe. So first of all, you're going to need to start with an egg. Just a regular large egg. Now, it's recommended that the egg is reached room temperature. And sometimes if you're like me, you forget to take the egg out of the fridge when you first come down to the kitchen and start organizing yourself. So there's a little quick thing you can do to help warm that egg up a bit, because a warmer egg will get more consistency of scrambling together when you start to blend it into the recipe. So what you can do is you can just take a bowl, put some really hot water in it, drop your egg gently, of course, into the bowl of water and let it sit there for 3 or 4 minutes to help warm up the interior of the egg. So I'm just going to take this egg and I'm going to use a measuring cup. I'd only need this because I'm only making enough for 2 chaffles. So this is quite enough space for me to do this. And I'm going to dump this egg into my measuring cup. And just put that to the side. Now I have this really cool little tool. And I have found this on Amazon. So you can get it on Amazon. And they have a lot of different combinations of sizes and shapes. And you can get, the one I got was a 3 set. So there's a bigger one and a bigger one and a bigger one. And I was told about this by a wonderful guy who has a channel on YouTube called Serious Keto. He found this and he's been promoting it, and he was not wrong. This is the most amazing little tool to scramble up egg. So I'm just going to put the plunger in here and I'm just going to give it a few whirls. And you can see how easy that is. I'm just going to move that out of the way so that you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just whipping this egg up. I'm going to do it a few times so that I start to see a lot of that white and yellow becoming more consistent. Now, of course, you can use a whisk or you could use a fork, but I found when I was using those that I still had a lot of chunks of white in my eggs if I was doing scrambled eggs, or in my chaffle when I was making chaffles. So this little gizmo, and that should be about right, and I'm just going to leave that there for a second, is pretty much perfect. And it fits into a 1 cup measuring cup perfectly, this particular size. And like I said, I do have bigger ones. So if you're doing scrambled eggs for the family, there's a bigger one that will whip that up pretty quick. The next thing you're going to need is almond flour. And right off the bat, I'm going to apologize for some of the containers you see some of my stuff in, because I go to the bulk store and I buy things in bulk. You can buy pre-packaged almond flour and psyllium husk and all of the things that you will find in a lot of the ketogenic recipes. But the problem with that is that because they're small quantities packaged up in really nice packaging with lots of print and lots of color, the cost for that is a lot. And when you're doing a lot of cooking and using of the same things over and over again, that can start to add up. When you're first experimenting with different products that are out there on the market to use in ketogenic cooking, definitely buy a small package and try it out before you go and get, like 2 pounds of it. But almond flour is one of the basic ingredients to ketogenic baking. We use this to make bread. We use it to make cookies and cakes. So having a lot of almond flour on hand is always a good thing. So what you're going to want to do with the dry ingredients is you're going to want to mix them in a separate little bowl just to get them all incorporated. So I'm just going to scoop up and I'm going to have 2 tablespoons. So 2 tablespoons of almond flour. And one cool thing about chaffles is that if you have a little bit more, a little bit less of that amount of flour, nobody is going to notice the difference. Trust me. I'm one of those cooks that kind of just eyeball things a lot of times, and it all seems to still work out. The next thing you're going to add in here, sorry, is 1 tablespoon of psyllium flour. Psyllium husks. So this is actually the husk. This is not the powder. It's not flour. This is the actual psyllium husk. So if you put this into this amount into about an 8-ounce glass of water, pretty soon it would be turned into gelatin, and you could drink it, and it's basically Metamucil. So without any flavoring. But what this is adding to the chaffle is fiber, and the fiber helps to counteract the carbs that are in almond flour. Now, the almond flour has protein, it has carbs, but it's very low compared to wheat flour. But this is just going to help to counteract the amount of carbohydrates that are going to be in this when we're done. So we're just going to put that to the side. The other secret ingredient is going to be a little product, and it's very pricey, but you use such a little amount of it that a small bag of it will last you like forever. And that's xanthan gum. Spelled with an X, not with a Z. Xanthan gum is the secret ingredient to baking to get that that moist but bouncy kind of consistency in breads and cakes and things that you're looking to make, especially when you're working with a flour like almond flour. So we're going to only need about 1/8 of a teaspoon. I just want to make sure I got the right one. Yeah. So I'm going to put 1/8 of a teaspoon in here. And the reason why I'm doing this separately as opposed to having the, I'm just going to put that there so you can see the product, as opposed to just dumping it in there and keep mixing it, is because I want that xanthan gum to get incorporated in with the psyllium husks and the almond flour. So I'm taking a whisk and I'm going to really whisk this all up really well. If you just drop xanthan gum in there, and it will immediately go into a big lump of goo. So by making sure it's distributed evenly with the flour, it's going to help to give body to the chaffle without going into any clumpy stuff happening. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to unceremoniously dump it in. And I'm going to start to blend it up. Now I've got some stuck to the edges here, so I'm just going to take my little spatula. It's good to have a spatula handy. You're going to need that when you're making chaffles for a lot of reasons. So always have a small spatula. You don't need a big one, just a small one. So I'm just blending this up, making sure all the flour and all of the egg are well incorporated together. And it becomes quite thick. Almost immediately, I don't know if we can see how thick that is, but you can see like just what's hanging off of this, and that's partly thanks to the xanthan gum. So I'm going to take this, I'm just going to put this into some water, because otherwise if I don't, it will become hard. Okay, thanks for the reading. Now I'm going to use my spatula, and I'm just going to scoop around the sides and just move that stuff around. And you'll see that your mixture is getting a little bit more looking like batter, but a very thick batter. So this particular recipe will make very thick batter for the chaffles. And I'm just going to plug my chaffle iron in right now, get it warmed up. So this particular little guy is every ketogenic cook's favorite tool, I should say, if you are into having chaffles, because this is a mini waffle maker, and this recipe will make 2 of this size of waffles, and it's the perfect size to make a breakfast sandwich. So now I have a 1/2 cup of cheese. This is mozzarella cheese. Now, technically you can use any kind of cheese that you like. I've tried different cheeses. The difference for me is that mozzarella doesn't have a lot of strong flavor, so it doesn't add that extra cheesy flavor to it to keep it tasting more like a bread. The other thing is it's not quite as oily as some of the cheddars and things like that. So you don't get any of this, like all of a sudden all this greasy stuff spilling off over the edges because it started to liquefy the cheese. So this keeps everything, and plus it's got a stretchability that only mozzarella has. So let's just move this stuff into our batter. And I'm almost taking too long to do this because this is really getting stiff now. Shove some of that back in. So now you see why you need to have that spatula to really make sure you mush the cheese and mix it well into the batter portion. Simply because you're going to divide this in half to make 2 chaffles, and you want to make sure you don't have more cheese hanging into one of the chaffles than the other. And that looks pretty good. I'm just going to give this a few more minutes to make sure it's up to speed. So let's just go over the ingredients again. We've got 2 tablespoons of almond flour, 1 tablespoon of psyllium husk, 1/8 of a teaspoon of xanthan gum, 1 large egg, and 1/2 cup of mozzarella cheese. So we're going to put this into the chaffle maker, and you're going to have it in here for about 5 or 6 minutes. A lot depends on how hot the chaffle maker has become before you actually start putting the batter into it. So the first thing you need to know is that the first one might take just a little bit longer than the second one because now the iron is really hot. So we're just going to open this up. It's so cute. They come out looking like Eggos. So I'm going to try to divide this about in half. And that looks pretty close to half. I'm just going to plop that on here. Just going to see if that blob looks about the same as the other blob. The only reason I would be concerned about the size of it is that you want your 2 chaffles to be like pretty much the same size. I also want to put a shout out to Serious Keto Channel because this is his basic recipe for chaffles. I'm pretty sure. And I may have, adjusted a few things as I tested my own versions of these. And I have a lot of other versions that I create depending on my mood for any particular day. So I'm just pushing this down just gently. What's going to happen, it's really thick. And I'm just going to pop that up for a second so you can just see that it's looking like a waffle in there. Because what's going to happen is as things start to expand, the egg starts to expand, it's going to start to pop up. So I'm just keeping my finger here. If the steam is coming out the front too much, you have to be very careful. You might want to have oven mitt or something, or a tea towel that you could put there so you don't get a steam burn. I'm just going to put the timer on now. And in 5 minutes, I'll be back. So our 5 minutes is up and our little Dash Mini has stopped steaming. And when the steaming stops, that's usually a pretty good indication that whatever's in there has been done. And so I'm just going to turn this little guy around so that you can see this lovely little chaffle. All right, so we're going to take him out. And I'm just going to show you a little bit more what it looks like. Hope you can see that okay. It's kind of hot here. And I'm putting them onto a rack to cool down a little bit. If you put it on a plate, what happens is the side that's like hot touching the plate starts to create condensation, and then that's how it gets kind of soft and yucky. So if you want to keep them on the crisper side, then you're going to want to make sure that you have a little rack that you can cool it on, a little wire rack. So I've got my second chaffle mix here. I'm just going to press it down a bit, get it fitting, spread it out. So you notice that after it was popping up for a little while and I pushed it down, when it was finished, it was actually quite flat. So that does happen. It's just in the initial stages that you have that kind of puffed up thing happening. Not too sure why, but I'm going to cook this one for 5 minutes. The other one did take exactly 5 minutes. And I'm going to be right back, okay? So our 5 minutes is up for the second chaffle. I'm just going to lift up the lid, have a look. Oh, she looks good. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm hoping you can see the color of this chaffle. It's beautiful golden color. And I'm going to sit this one here to cool down. And certainly if you have the resources and you want to buy 2 of these little guys, you could be making both your chaffles at the same time, and then that would save some time as far as the prep part of this goes. Now, if you have some spare time and you want to, you can actually make these ahead. Apparently they freeze very well, and then you just put them in the toaster to warm them back up again, just like you would an Eggo waffle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prepare the rest of my breakfast. I'm going to be making myself a breakfast sandwich. I'm going to be having an egg, and I've got some beautiful, beautiful pea meal bacon, pork loin bacon, which is very popular with my family. And I'm going to cut myself off a slice, and I'm going to cook that up, and then I'm going to arrange my sandwich, and I'll see you in a few minutes when that's ready. So here I finished my egg. I fried an egg, and I fried my slice of pea meal bacon, and I'm going to take one of my chaffles, and you can see when they get a chance to cool down, they're nice and crispy. And I'm going to place that just on there. You could butter the chaffle if you wanted to, but what I like to do is I like to put a little cream cheese on it. So I've got this Philadelphia cream cheese, and it's this one particular one has chives in it, so it's kind of got a nice garlicky, oniony flavor to it. And I don't have a knife here. I'll just use my spatula. And I'm just going to take a little gob of this, and I'm going to smear it onto my chaffle. And you could also do a slice of cheese on top of this if you wanted to. You could add any condiment you like, just being aware that things like ketchup do have carbs in them. Salt and pepper to taste, already done that. And there is my beautiful breakfast chaffle ready to go. Now, of course, you could put a slice of tomato, you could put a slice of lettuce, you could use bacon instead of pea meal bacon, you can use anything you like. You could just have straight egg and cheese. But the best part of all of this is that this particular breakfast sandwich is going to be extra cheesy good. So there you go, breakfast sandwich with chaffles, easy. Oh, before I do go, sorry, I just remembered I'm supposed to tell you how many carbs are in this particular recipe. And my calculator will tell me in a second. I've got this really cool little calculator that I put all the ingredients, including the ingredients to make the chaffles. I prepared that as a recipe into the memory. So all I have to do is say chaffles, and it calculates it all. And this particular combination comes to net carbs of 4 net carbs. It actually has 6 carbs and 2 grams of fiber, so we're looking at 4 carbs for this breakfast. Compared to if we were having this on actual toast, you would be looking at 24 carbs just for the bread, plus the little bit of carbs, whatever cheese you put on. So there you go. Bye for now.